Have you ever watched someone completely unravel, not because someone screamed at them, not because someone exposed them publicly, but simply because one quiet, stone-faced person refused to play along? That's what happens when a narcissist meets an INTJ. No drama, no tears, no emotional breakdowns, at least not from the INTJ's side. Just cold, calculated silence and a level of self-control that makes narcissists absolutely lose their minds. The narcissist walks in with all their usual weapons: the charm, the manipulation, the fake warmth, the hidden agenda. They pick their target, run their playbook, and wait for the emotional reaction they need. With an INTJ, that reaction never comes. If you've ever wondered why narcissists either obsess over INTJs or quietly disappear from their lives, you're about to find out exactly why. Because the way an INTJ handles a narcissist isn't loud. It isn't even obvious. But it's absolutely devastating to someone who runs entirely on emotional control and manufactured power. The INTJ mind. Why they're built differently. INTJs are one of the rarest personality types in the world, making up roughly 1 to 3% of the population. And yes, they're often found in roles that demand strategic thinking, but pop psychology has reduced them to the cold genius type, and that's only half the story. Their dominant cognitive function is introverted intuition. This is the ability to pull massive amounts of information from the environment and synthesize it into a deeper understanding, often before the INTJ can even fully articulate how they know what they know. They don't just see what's in front of them. They see what it means, where it's going, and what the pattern underneath it actually is. Their auxiliary function, extrovert thinking, takes everything NI surfaces and organizes a response. Efficient, logical, unsentimental. They don't make decisions because something feels right. They make decisions because the logic holds. Underneath all of that runs a deeply private set of inner values, their introverted feeling, which means they have strong, non-negotiable convictions about what is right and wrong that don't shift based on social pressure or who's in the room. Put it together, a person who sees through behavioral patterns with unsettling clarity, who doesn't need external validation to feel grounded, and whose internal compass cannot be manipulated by approval or disapproval. For a narcissist, this is the worst possible combination they could run into. The narcissist's playbook. Narcissists operate on what psychologists call a supply model. They need constant emotional fuel, admiration, fear, attention, anger, even conflict. It doesn't matter what emotion they get as long as they get a reaction. That reaction is their supply, and without it, their ego starts to collapse. Their toolkit is reliable. Love bombing first, overwhelming someone with intensity and flattery to build fast emotional dependency. Then gaslighting, rewriting reality to keep their target confused and off balance. Then triangulation, silent treatments, intermittent reinforcement, mixing pain and reward so unpredictably that the other person becomes almost addicted to their approval. The entire system runs on one assumption: that you need something from them. Their validation, their attention, their version of reality. INTJs, by their very nature, break every single one of those assumptions. First contact, building a case without saying a word. When an INTJ and a narcissist first meet, something quiet begins immediately. The narcissist does what they always do, turns on the charm, mirrors the INTJ's intelligence, makes them feel understood. But here's what the narcissist doesn't know: the INTJ is already watching, already noticing the small things. The way the story changes slightly between tellings. The way every conversation subtly orbits back to the narcissist. The gap between what they claim and what the evidence actually shows. The INTJ isn't making accusations. They're just filing it away, building a case without saying a word. Most people miss the early warning signs because they're too busy enjoying the warmth of the love bombing. The INTJ, meanwhile, is sitting there thinking, why is this person trying this hard? What are they actually after? By the time the narcissist's mask begins to slip, the INTJ has already built a complete picture. They're not surprised. They're not confused. They just nod internally and think, yeah, that tracks. The emotional non-reaction. Why it drives narcissists crazy. Narcissists depend on emotional reactions the way a fire depends on oxygen. When they push, they need someone to flinch. When they provoke, they need someone to explode. When they go cold, they need someone to panic. Every tactic is designed to produce a visible emotional response, because that response proves they have power over you. INTJs don't give them that. Not because they're emotionless, they absolutely feel things, but because their natural processing style is deeply internal. When an INTJ is hurt or furious, they don't broadcast it. They go quiet. They think. They process alone. From the outside, it looks like nothing touched them at all. To a narcissist, this is infuriating. They escalate. The love bombing gets more intense. The put-downs get sharper. The silent treatments get longer. But an INTJ who has already figured out what's happening doesn't take the bait. They've intellectually disengaged from the game, and you cannot win against someone who refuses to play. The narcissist is used to pulling strings and watching people dance. With an INTJ, they pull the string and nothing happens. Then they pull harder. Still nothing. Then they start to panic because they've never encountered someone who simply doesn't respond, and they don't know what to do when their toolkit stops working. INTJ silence, a weapon they don't know they're carrying. When an INTJ goes quiet, it means something very specific. They've processed the situation, reached a conclusion, and decided the other person doesn't deserve the energy of a response. It's not sulking. It's not the silent treatment used as emotional punishment. It's withdrawal of participation. And here's why that's so devastating to a narcissist. Silence can't be argued with. You can't gaslight silence. You can't twist it into a narrative that serves you. Silence simply exists, and it communicates, without saying anything at all. I see you. And I'm not impressed. Narcissists crave reaction. They'll pick fights just to get one. They'll say something provocative, wait for the explosion, and then use your reaction as proof of your instability. The INTJ sees the trap, sidesteps it without breaking stride, and keeps walking. Boundaries that don't flex. One thing narcissists depend on is slow boundary erosion. They don't ask for too much at once. That would be obvious. They push a little, test, back off, then push further. Most people don't realize their limits are being dismantled until they're deep in a dynamic they never consciously agreed to. INTJs don't let that happen. When an INTJ sets a boundary, it isn't a negotiation, it's a statement of fact. This is acceptable. That is not. And when the narcissist crosses it, there are no warnings disguised as last chances. Just consequences, delivered calmly and immediately. Narcissists are used to people whose no means convince me harder. When they meet someone whose no genuinely means no, who doesn't waver, doesn't get emotional about it, and doesn't need approval for the boundary to stand, they don't know what to do. They push harder. The boundary holds. Every single time. The strategic withdrawal. When an INTJ has determined that someone is truly toxic, they don't issue ultimatums or deliver a grand speech about everything the narcissist has done wrong. They just begin to leave. The withdrawal is methodical. Less energy invested. Less shared. Contact reduced gradually and deliberately. The INTJ stops explaining themselves and stops engaging with provocations. The narcissist often doesn't even realize what's happening at first. They're used to people who storm off in anger or beg for reconciliation. The INTJ just fades. And when they're completely done, they're done in a way that's final. The INTJ door slam is total, permanent emotional shutdown. Once that door closes, it rarely opens again. The narcissist can't hoover someone who genuinely doesn't miss them. Can't charm someone who has already made up their mind. Can't regain power over someone who has fully let go. The quiet exit that says everything. The final departure of an INTJ is not the dramatic exit a narcissist expects. There's no confrontation. No tearful goodbye. No long message cataloging every grievance. Just absence. One day the INTJ is there, and then in one way or another, they're not. For the narcissist, this is maddening. They were counting on a scene, one last hit of supply. Even a negative ending is something, as long as it confirms they mattered enough to produce a reaction. Instead, they got a door closing quietly, with no invitation to re-enter. That quiet exit is the INTJ's final move, and it's the most devastating one. Not because it's cruel, but because it communicates something the narcissist genuinely cannot process. You were never necessary. Why the INTJ wins without trying to win. Here's the deepest irony in all of this. The INTJ isn't thinking about winning. They're just being themselves, living according to their nature, observing, thinking, maintaining their values, protecting their energy, moving on from what doesn't serve them. They don't set out to dismantle a narcissist. They just refuse to play the game. And because the narcissist's entire power structure depends on willing players, that refusal is, in itself, the most complete dismantling possible. You can't manipulate someone who doesn't need your approval. You can't control someone through emotional reactions they don't give. You can't gaslight someone who trusts their own mind over your version of events. You can't make someone chase you when they've already concluded you're not worth chasing. You can't destabilize someone who was never seeking their stability from you in the first place. Every tool in the narcissist's kit meets a wall with an INTJ. Not because the INTJ is cruel or tactical about it, but because who the INTJ is happens to be the perfect antidote to everything a narcissist needs to survive. The narcissist needs supply. The INTJ doesn't give it. The narcissist needs control. The INTJ doesn't yield it. The narcissist needs chaos. The INTJ doesn't engage with it. And in the end, the narcissist walks away without what they came for, while the INTJ is still standing exactly where they were. Unmoved, unbothered, unchanged.